if you're claiming asylum from Iran or any other country, if you're saying that your life is in danger at your home country, then you can't come here, claim asylum, and support that regime that you're claiming that your life is in danger from, or go back there for holidays. A Jewish man was arrested for holding a placard that mocked the leader of the Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a UK government prescribed group.
Well, first of all, let me welcome my first guest today. Friend of mine I've known for a couple of years now, and it's Potkin Azamir. How you doing, Potkin?
I'm doing good, Nick. Nice to talk to you again. Good to see you again.
And good to see you, and thanks for coming on the show. A few days ago, I'm trying to plan who I want on my show and what we're going to discuss, and I thought of you almost straight away, because what we're going to get into is the Iranian regime infiltration into the UK. A couple of years ago, I'd have said, what are you talking about? Iran is, a second world country. They're not a threat. They might be a threat to neighbours. They're not a threat to the UK, to Western Europe. But I started noticing a thing a few years ago, which was we would have demonstrations in London where we've got people from Iran living here now who have escaped the regime. Whether or not they should be in the UK or not is a different issue altogether, but they're here escaping from the regime. And suddenly they're being demonstrated and sometimes being assaulted by pro-regime Iranians living in this country. If you're pro the Iranian regime, what are you doing in the UK? Why aren't you back in Iran? Because you're pro-regime. I don't get that. Why are they here?
I don't think anyone gets it, Nick. I mean, if you're claiming asylum from Iran or any other country, if you're saying that your life is in danger at your home country, then you can't come here, claim asylum, and support that regime that you're claiming that your life is in danger from, or go back there for holidays.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy that you can really write off a lot of these bogus asylum cases by just checking who's gone back to Iran for holidays after claiming that their life is in danger. But to let you know how widespread the Iranian influence in the UK is and how unchecked it's gone especially in the last 14 years of Tory rule, the think tank Policy Exchange did a paper called Tehran Calling. It's 87 pages long, and it goes on through all the different outlets that are affiliated with Iran's Islamic Republic of Iran, the ruling theocracy in Iran. And even that 87 pages is not fully comprehensive. After the paper was published, we found out there were even more outlets that were not even included in the 87 pages. Can you imagine? And outlets after outlets has been allowed by the UK government in the last 14 years, especially, but even before that, to flourish here, to spread Iran's influence under all sorts of different guises, umbrella organizations, using the loopholes in our democracy, religious tolerance, and DEI and diversity and all that thing, yet the British government hasn't even been able to reopen the British Council in Iran. How is it that they have so many outlets here, but the British government hasn't said, at least say, look, okay, you can open this outlet here if we can reopen the British Council in Iran? How pathetic is this? How weak are our politicians? Where is the...
I was going to jump in there. So is it the Iranian government refusing to allow the British to open their embassy consulate in Iran? Right.
Absolutely. And the BBC as well. I mean, they've got so many outlets here for their state affiliated TV. They've got the Press TV, which is the English arm of the Iranians, English speaking arm of the Iranian state TV. And you have the Iranian state TV, IRIB outlets here operating freely. And their employees come here on a sort of like work visa. And then after 3 years, they should be replaced by someone else. But somehow they managed to renew their visa, and then they become permanent residents. So you have these comical situations where you have these Iranian state TV presenters making reports from London saying how bad things are here, and then they become permanent residents here with their families.
That
no one stops it.
Me.
It really is bizarre. It's unbelievable. And the way the Met Police has been behaving since these protests started after the horrible atrocities on October 7th, people like me who are known dissidents to the Iranians, we don't feel safe.
Yep.
The other day, we heard in the Daily Telegraph, it was exposed. I've got a video of it on my YouTube channel as well. A Jewish man was arrested for holding a placard that mocked the leader of the Hezbollah. Hezbollah is a UK government prescribed group.
Terrorist group.
So, and the police, when they were interviewing him, yes, it's a UK prescribed terrorist group, Hezbollah. So, no one should be supporting it. And yet, the Metropolitan Police arrested a Jewish man for holding a placard that mocked the leader of a terrorist group. And then, in the interview, they were accusing him of inciting racial hatred and racial and religious hatred. Where is the race and religion come into it? It's a prescribed terrorist group that has killed British servicemen, that has kidnapped British citizens. I don't know how many of you, your viewers would remember, like Terry Waite, the Church of England envoy, who was kidnapped by the Hezbollah, or John McCarthy, the journalist who was kidnapped in Lebanon. And the police is worried about the feelings of the supporters of prescribed terrorist group. How can we feel safe with this incompetent police?
Yeah, you've just...
why is there Mark Lawless brought to answer? Yeah.
You've just answered mine, because my next question was going to be, why are Iran infiltrating the UK? Because we're not a world power. We're never going to attack Iran. It's America who's the world power. We're nobodies now. We're collapsing. Our country's collapsing. Why are they infiltrating us? But you've already just explained it. It's because
they found an easy target, and this is a springboard for their influence to the West. It's not just, we're not just talking about the UK, because other countries like Germany is well ahead of us. They've closed down some of the Iranian outlets. They've kicked out some of the representatives of the supreme leader in Germany. We're still allowing them to flourish. And all of these outlets, they've all got some sort of affiliated charity, and the Charity Commission isn't doing anything about it, other than putting them under investigation, which just gives them an excuse, because every time you ask them something, say, "Oh, we can't comment on it because it's under investigation." Well, the Islamic Center, for example, has been under investigation for 4 years. Not even one update, no decision after 4 years. When clearly when the head of the Islamic Center comes, they read the letter of inauguration in English from the supreme leader. So how much more evidence do they need? It's a joke, and the British public have to be made aware of this. This is a national security risk. Only recently we had 8 Iranians arrested. 5 of them were under terrorism thing, because they were taking part in some terrorist activity, as it was reported, and it said that the target was the Israeli embassy. Another 3 were arrested under National Security Act, unrelated to the other operation, because they were monitoring and gathering information on important figures. They could have been Iranian dissidents, they could have been British figures or MPs, politicians, or whatever, who've been vocal against the regime, or Jewish figures who've been targeted by the Iranian regime. Now, the thing is, with National Security Act, there is it actually got royal assent in July 2023. Tom Tugendhat was the security minister at the time, and he made a big song and dance about it. He even produced a video clip. It's on his YouTube channel. You can go and watch it, saying this is now a game changer. This is going to stop the influence peddling by hostile states. And Iran, China, and Russia were specifically named as hostile states. Within the National Security Act, there is something called Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, which says, because until now the security forces were saying, well, we can stop someone if they're involved in a terrorist activity, but we haven't got any powers to stop someone if they're just peddling or projecting the soft power of a hostile state. Well, this Foreign Influence Registration Scheme was supposed to enable them, security forces, to act on those as well. So according to the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, if anyone is an actor or an agent on behalf of a hostile state in this country, they should either register themselves, or if they haven't, they could face up to 5 years jail. early in April, we had Dan Jarvis, the new security minister. And by the way, I have the utmost respect for Dan Jarvis and Tom Tugendhat. Both of them have served in the military on the front line. I believe that they are patriots, but I think it's a little bit. It's not all down to them, but I think they've got the best intentions at heart. Dan Jarvis also produced a video clip warning Iran specifically that they can't get away with their malign activities in England.
Hmm.
Few weeks after that, we had the Al-Quds Day annual march, which is specifically organized by the Iranian state, with people on the streets of London carrying placards and pictures of the supreme leader of Iran and pledging allegiance to him. Is that not a joke?
Yeah.
And there's so many things about this registration, this foreign influence registration scheme that we don't know about. For example, how does one go and register in this thing? Where can one check to see who has registered? And yet there hasn't been a single arrest so far, despite all these video clips. And and on the Al-Quds Day, I'd gone there to report from there, and I talked to the police officers who were policing that. None of them knew about the National Security Act that got the royal assent in July 2023. None of them knew about foreign influence registration scheme. None of them even knew who Dan Jarvis was. It seems that we have legislators legislating, left, right, and centre. But the people, the security forces, the people on the ground who should be implementing it have got no idea. They haven't been briefed. Instead, they go and arrest someone who's got a placard mocking the leader of the Hezbollah. How ridiculous is this?
Yep. A friend of mine on YouTube was arrested recently for mocking Germans. I mean, if you can't mock Germans, they'll be saying we can't mock the French next, because we can't even mock the Ayatollah. So, I mean, we're in a crazy situation here. Potkin, stay with us. We need to go to a short break in a minute. And when we get back, we'll dive a bit deeper into that.
Sure.
See you after the break. Welcome back to Wednesdays with me, Nick Buckley, here at The Pulse. We're talking about the Iranian regime and their infiltration into the UK. Potkin, let me ask you this final question. Is the regime in Tehran, is it scared? Is it going to fall? Are we going to see a repeat of the 1979 revolution in Iran that will lead to a different outcome? Because my understanding from what I see online is the people in Iran seem to have had enough of this Islamic regime. Is that me in an echo chamber, or is this true?
I think you're right in the sense that the Iranian population, the vast majority of the Iranian population, have now seen through them, this regime, and only maybe 5% of the regime support them, and they're basically because they're profiteering from the regime. But whether they're going to be overthrown by a revolution, let me explain it like this. The thing is, this regime has come to power through a revolution. So they know all the A to Z of a revolution and how to crack down, how to discredit the movement, how to divide and rule. And it's their playing field. Street protests is their playing field. We've now seen in the last just 15 years, 4 major uprisings, nationwide uprisings, and they've managed to brutally crack down on all of them. And they've sort of like these uprisings have died away. Personally, I've come to a conclusion that because this is their playing field, maybe street protests and the revolution, as we saw in 1979, a repeat of that against the same people who've come to power through a revolution, is a little bit out of reach. But, there wasn't street protests in the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union collapsed. And I think the Achilles heel of the Islamic Republic of Iran is also economy. It's the mismanagement of the economy, the vast corruption. It's just not bringing results, and it can't go on like this. And just like the collapse of the Soviet Union, that it was inevitable, but it was hard to predict when it's going to happen. But all the signs are that it will happen in Iran as well, as long as they're not given a lifeline by the Western powers, as they were in JCPOA, for example. I mean, they were very close to collapsing back then. They were just running out of money. If you can't pay your own supporters, then you're doomed to collapse. And then suddenly you had Obama and throwing them a lifeline with the JCPOA, giving them pallets of cash, and all sorts of other concessions and all that, basically rewarding bad behavior. As long as the Western powers don't give them a lifeline, they are definitely doomed to collapse, as the Soviet Union did. But what we need is someone like Reagan and Thatcher in the West that are determined to see the end of this theocracy. And once we see, just as in 1979, that was a paradigm shift in the Middle East, and it sort of like spurned the growth of Islamic extremism. If the regime, or when the regime collapses in Iran, we will see the exact opposite. Just like communism died out after people saw what was going on in the Soviet Union, including many of the Marxists and communists that were supporting the Soviet Union themselves, when they saw what was going on. The same will happen in Iran once this regime collapses, and it'd be the decline of Islamic extremism after that. So, it just remains to be seen when it's going to happen and how determined the Western powers are to see the end of it.
And just like you're correct, just like the communist Eastern European bloc, no one saw their fall coming. The CIA didn't even know the Berlin Wall was going to fall a couple of hours before it fell, because we think our intelligence agencies know everything, but no one knows what humans are going to do from one day to the next. And when things fall and when things look dangerous, these sort of leaders tend to run away. And then there's a vacuum there, there's a gap, and things can fall so easily if the people wish it and it's the right time. So Iran could fall any day, any week, any year.
In fact, two other examples to back up what you just said. One was the Hungarian Uprising. 1 month before the Hungarian Uprising, the American embassy in Budapest said there's no chance of an uprising here. Why? Because their sources of information was from the diplomats that were mainly involved in cocktail parties with Hungarian officials and all that. They weren't having access to the grassroots people. Same in 1979 in Iran. The CIA report was that the Shah is going to stay in power and the Islamists will not be able to succeed in the revolution. They made one huge intelligent mistake, and that was that they assumed the Shah was going to crack down. They never sort of like went down the route to say, okay, well, if the Shah doesn't really crack down on the protest, what will happen? So two examples of like even the intelligence services, diplomatic services, right before a revolution, didn't predict it happening, because it's hard for them to have contact with the grassroots on the streets and understand their frustrations with what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. But Kent, thank you so much for coming along today. And if anything happens in that part of the world, especially in Iran, please get in contact. Let's get you back on and let's start discussing it again here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Nick, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you to Derek. I'll watch you with speaking to Derek as well. I've just subscribed to his YouTube channel as well. So.
Well, the next guest is.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. The next guest is going to be just as great as you, because it's someone who definitely knows what's going on in their country. Let me just wrap up that discussion there. I think what we need to understand about Iran is Iran isn't going to change under this government, under this Islamic regime. There's going to be no tinkering. There's going to be no modernization. There's not going to be any changes, because they can only go one way. They understand. Well, for them, they understand which way they want to go. Allah wills it. This is what we need to do. That regime will have to fall. Other countries around the world that we don't like, or may be hostile towards us, they may change. They may modernize. They may develop. They may become friendly over time with different leaders. But the Islamic regime of Iran will not change. It has to fall. Same with North Korea. That has to fall at some point.